Hello, viewers. Welcome to our next episode of Sandy Wars. We are continuing with our first-hand participants' reports on the Tawang sector after doing the 1962 war, covering the 1962 battles at Namkachu and Bumla. As promised, now we have come to cover the Sumdorong-chu affair, which started in August 1986. Many people do not know that was the last time that China was given a befitting reply on a prospective battlefield by the Indian Army. To describe it in details and bring you a first-hand version, today we have Colonel Pradeep Saxena, retired, who at that time as a major was a direct combatant. He was a 2IC of the 244 Medium Regiment, which was in support of 5 Mountain Division in this sector. I now invite Colonel Saxena to take you through the entire episode in detail, starting with his own introduction. Sir, it's now over to you.
Thank you, Sandeep, for having me on your show. I am indeed indebted to you and grateful, and I look forward to contributing as positively as is possible for my memory to go along. Let me just give you a brief insight about myself before I proceed on to the Sumdorong-chu incident. I'm a second generation officer. My dad and brothers are Kumanis, and there are other 8 members of the family, and me 9, who have served or are serving the Army, Air Force, and the Navy of the nation. I am an ex-NDA from the 35th NDA course, and I was commissioned in the Regiment of Artillery in December 1969. My first posting was in the foothills of Arunachal, what was then called Nefa. And my association with Arunachal started on 6th of June 1970 when I reported to my unit at Missamari. I have, during the course of my 35 years in uniform, served not only the entire breadth of Eastern Command, that is from Nepal on the west to Burma on the east, but particularly been involved in was then called the 4-Corps zone, that is between the western periphery of Bhutan and the eastern boundary of Burma. I have total served 11 and a half years, 9 of which is in what is 4-Corps zone and 2 years in what is called 33-Corps zone, including serving in Bhutan and Sikkim and North Bengal. So I have, by default, about 11 and a half years, 1/3 of my service in what is known as Eastern Command. I have also been fortunate to have served in Ladakh. I'm making a mention in passing because today Ladakh, Eastern Ladakh also is part of the conflict with China. And I have been fortunate in having served in those 2 areas also in 74 and 75. The rest, of course, I have served along the line of control with Pakistan as well as with China throughout my service. I've been singularly fortunate that most of my service, except for 2 years, 1.5 years in Sagar, has been somehow or the other involved directly with the borders with Pakistan or China. Now, with that as a backdrop, let me give you an insight into what happened in 1986. The country had Mr. Rajiv Gandhi as the Prime Minister. He was also the Defense Minister. His cousin, Mr. Arun Nehru, was the Home Minister, under whom the Assam Rifles and the SSB, those days known as the services, what you call Special Services Bureau, now known as the Suraksha Sevak Dal. Yeah. And they were there part of him, under him. And then his own Doon school buddy, fellow DOSCO, Arun Singh was the Minister of State for Defense. So this was the political setup with whom the matters military were to be played out with. At the army level, we had General K. Sundarji, a Mahar officer converted into a mechanized infantry officer, the father of modern day doctrine in the Indian Army. He was the army chief. Eastern Army Command was under Lieutenant General J.K. Puri, an artillery gunner. 4 Corps was under General N.S.I. Nair Hari, a paratrooper from the Sappers, very fine gentleman, an outstanding sportsman. Even as a corps commander, he could beat a second lieutenant in a game of squash. And we had 3 divisions then under 4 Corps, 2 mountain divisions in Binjan under General Somchungan from the Garhwal Rifles. In 5 days we had located at Tanga was Major General in 21 days we had Major General P.K. Khanna in Rangia, and in 5 days in Tanga, we had Major General H.M. Singh from the Brigade of Guards.
So let me just clarify it for our viewers. So under 4 Corps, there were 3 divisions there, yes, apart from corps troops. So yes, at in the immediate area, which is south of Bomdila, you had 5 Mountain Dev, right? At Misamari.
The headquarters of 5 Mountain Dev was at Tanga.
At Tanga.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And in addition to these 3 infantry divisions.
And the other 2, sir, where was 21?
2 Dev was, I'll repeat, 2 Dev was at Binjan, which is looking after the borders between Subansari to Burma. Okay. Then 5 Dev was there in Tanga, looking after basically the Tawang sector. And 21 Dev, which was there in Rangia.
Rangia.
Okay, Rangia, that is, south of the Brahmaputra, on the main rail link onto Guwahati. And actually,
so that was reserve. 21 D was reserve, core reserve.
No, it was part of the core. I'll come to the tasks later on. And from Rangia, one line goes on to Guwahati and towards Lamding and on to Tinsukia and Dibrugarh. And the other line goes to Tezpur and on to Murkong Selik, etc. In addition to this, each of these divisions had their own artillery brigade, but the primary role of 4 Corps was that it had a 4 Corps artillery brigade under Brigadier Jagjit Singh. The role of the CCRT, as he was known as Commander Corps Artillery, was to act as the RT advisor to the Corps Commander, as well as coordinate the RT resources in the entire Corps zone. So, based on the threat perception and the operational assignments allotted, the CCRT, the Commander Corps Artillery, was responsible for allocating the RT resources that were made available to him. Let me also mention that in addition to the 3 RT brigades which are integral to 4 Corps, we also had 8 Mountain RT Brigade which is available to us at Misamari. 8 Dev at that time was located in Chakabama in Nagaland, but its RT resources were available to 4 Corps for employment should the need arise. Because 8 Dev was part of 3 Corps which are located at Dimapur and was involved in counterinsurgency operations. So its RT resources were at that time surplus to its operational task. Hence, they were available for employment with 4 Corps. I was the second in command of 244 Medium Regiment, located at Tezpur, and we were co-located with headquarters 4 Corps RT Brigade. In fact, there were very many RT resources with 4 Corps RT Brigade. One of them was my 244 Medium Regiment, and another one was an AROP flight, now an aviation force, and they were located at Misamari.
So you had a dual role, sir? You had a dual role as 2IC of 244 and...
I was 2IC of 244 Medium Regiment, which is part of 4 Corps RT Brigade. And one of the other units which is part of 4 Corps RT Brigade, which is located in the Tezpur area, was AROP flight. I think it was 22 AROP flight, which is located in Misamari. And other assets of 4 Corps RT Brigade were employed elsewhere, which I will not give out now. Let me at this moment explain the organization of the 4 Corps RT Brigade. The 4 Corps RT Brigade was slightly different from a conventional RT Brigade in the sense that it had a commander, brigade commander, who was known as the CCRT. It did not have a deputy brigade commander, but it had a colonel GS. The colonel GS was responsible for all operational matters, the G matters as we call it. And then under him he had a SO2 and he had an IO. The GSO2 was to assist the colonel GS and IO was to assist the commander in maintaining the intelligence network and updating the intelligence inputs, plus also acting as the administrator for the camp. The camp commandant of the brigade headquarters, looking after the man, the administration, the pay, allowances, etc., well-being of the men who were part of the brigade headquarters. And last but not the least, there was a gentleman called the AQMG, Assistant Quartermaster General. His responsibility was to take care of the logistics of the brigade in the entire core zone, artillery aspects. Now, those artillery aspects could be including movement of ammunition, medical supplies, medical assets, fuel and oil and lubricants. So things like that were all part of his assignment. Unfortunately, there was the SO2 of 4 Korati Brigade had been involved in some disciplinary activities, some proceedings, with the result that when the then Colonel GS had to proceed on leave, his annual leave and annual entitlement of annual leave of 60 days, there was no other option to get anybody to officiate in his place. And I, then 2IC of 244, was asked to officiate as Colonel GS in place of the permanent incumbent. The permanent incumbent was Colonel Narayan Ramtri. Our CCRD was Brigadier Jagjit Singh. And my CO was Lieutenant Colonel, later Brigadier H.V. Nanda. Here I would like to mention one particular trivia for every viewer's interest. That Brigadier Jagjit was the adjutant when Brigadier Nanda and I were cadets in the India. So for him, we were still his cadets, and you didn't even say yes sir or no sir. You just said sir. Whatever the diktat demanded at that time, the reply was only sir. And he brokered no negative responses from us, or no questions or answers from us. All he was, any doubts, sir, and that was the end of it. So when I was asked to sidestep and dip and officiate, my sir had very limited choice. But at the same time, the regiment had to also function. So I found myself in a very unenviable job of doing the job of the Colonel GS, officiating Colonel GS in the morning. And in the evening, I used to come and do the work as a 2IC in my unit. So many a times it was a funny situation that I would pass orders to my unit in the morning, and in the evening as 2IC, I would represent against those very orders to the same gentleman who had issued them, that is me. But those were, the interesting moments of one's assignment. It was in this context that I came across to be involved in the Sumdorong-chu incident. I must mention here that when I got to officiate, along with the official assignment, I also inherited a telephone, military telephone, which came with the appointment, that is Colonel GS residence appointment. Office, of course, I was there, but in the house also the signals installed a special telephone, and it had a feature of a secret device. It was popularly called Ulta phone for want of a better name. Now, what this Ulta phone used to do was, when you spoke, it encrypted whatever you spoke, and then sent it out as in a form of digital communication to the other end. And the receiver at the other end, the Ulta phone on the other end, would decipher it, and then the person would get the conversation, what you were saying. There was a lapse of a few seconds, sometimes 5, sometimes 10. So you have to get used to speaking on the Ulta phone. Like, I'm not speaking to you directly, you are hearing and you can intervene and you can question me. But there you spoke, you waited for the other chap to listen to you, receive and listen to you, and then he would speak, and then you waited for his speech to reach you, and then you responded. So it is that thing which was there. It was the last Saturday of July. I don't remember the date, but it was the last Saturday of July. I normally used to walk back because all the office work used to reduce my physical activity level. So normally in the evening after doing my unit work, I used to walk back to my house, which is about 3 kilometers away. And it was a Saturday, so I had planned to take my children out to the north bank of Brahmaputra for a little picnic. We were all looking forward to it, but destiny had planned it otherwise. When I reached home, my wife told me that the BGS had rung up twice and he wanted to speak to you urgently. The BGS was the main principal staff officer of operational matter. His name was Brigadier Sher Jang Singh Rathod from the mechanized infantry. He later on became Major General. And the other, his counterpart in the logistics was Brigadier Adam was Brigadier Sher Amir Singh. These are the two pillars of administration under General Narayan. So I immediately got around to speaking to the BGS. He immediately told me, he said, Saxena, switch on your Ulta phone. So I realized that something was significant. So I switched on the Ulta phone. To cut this long story short, he told me, he says, Monday morning, Army commander is coming, and 10 o'clock, we are briefing him in the core ops room. Your commander is going to be speaking to the Army commander on RT plans after the corps commander. Please inform him and coordinate with the G1 ops on rehearsals and updating of the RT maps in the
So
core
this
ops.
was on 26 July. Last Saturday was 26 July 1986.
It could 26
So
or 27.
what
For
time
the
did
last
the
Saturday.
call come? What time did the call come?
It was about, I reached home at about 7 o'clock or maybe quarter to 7. So immediately I spoke to him, and then after speaking to him, I told him, thank you, sir. And I then rang up the brigade commander. I told him, I said, sir, this is what the message we have got from the BGS, and what orders do I, coordinate with the G1 ops, because we have to do up the map, as well as in case you want to carry out a rehearsal, then you do. So he told me, he says, okay, Saxena, no problem. Come to the office tomorrow at 9 o'clock. We will sit together and sort out all the slides that are required for the presentation. Those days, we had this OHP, overhead projector, and slides made on tag with the paper framework around it, which were used. But the thing was that all those slides were top secret because they were all operational plans. And all top secret documents could be held only by colonel and above, and I was only a major. So they had to be held by the commander in person. They had to be under lock, secured, lock and key. And we had to take them from the brigade headquarters to the corps headquarters. So we had required an armed escort. All those things were coordinated, and we went there. The commander and I sat together and took out these slides which he felt were required for the briefing to the army commander on Monday. Together we both went to the corps headquarters and then went into the JOIR. JOIR is the the acronym for Joint Operations Intelligence Room, or in short, the Ops Room of Headquarters 4.
Sorry,
Then
the ops room of
Joint Operations Intelligence Room, JOIR, called JOIR. And we carried out a rehearsal. We updated the maps, and we came back with the commander. And next day, Monday, we were there. I heard the briefing of the corps commander. I heard the briefing of the 3 GOCs, 2 Mountain Dev, 5 Mountain Dev, 21 Mountain Dev. Before that, the BGS had introduced the whole map. And this was the first time I was actually seeing the whole map of 4 corps in front of me and was being exposed as a young major. I was not even with 16 years of service. I was being exposed to the whole operational plan of 4 corps. I couldn't make out head or tail except for what was in front of me at that level. But I tried to look as interested as was possible. And the worst was that you couldn't make notes. So everything had to be either, kept, recorded in your brain, or at best scribbled, something to be recapitulated later on. Anyway, when my commander's turn came, he briefed. He was the army commander, was more than satisfied. And then at the end of it, he told him, Jagjeet, after this briefing is over, coordinate with the three div commanders, go and listen to their latest operational plan, which they given out here. Sit with them and see how best the existing RT resources can be reorganized and made available to them so that we have the best and the most optimized RT assets available to all the forces which are deployed.
So till this time, you were not aware of the context. No one had told you.
No. It was a routine. It was a routine review of operational plans. I'm going to come to that at that particular point of time. It was a routine, this thing and all. There was no indication whatsoever of what was happening north of the McMahon line. No idea it was, and there was no indication from either the corps commander or either from the corps staff or either from any of the three div commanders or from my own commander. So we all were actually in the dark. While sitting and listening to the briefing of the other heads of the commander engineers and the corps commander signals, and everybody was then giving out their plans, I make out a small note and then went across quietly to the Colonel GS 2 Mountain Div, Colonel GS 5 Mountain Div, and Colonel GS 21 Mountain Div, and said, sir, could you please give me the dates on which my commander can visit you? So we gave the dates, and to get to the point, we drew up the plan to visit 21 div first, followed by 5 div, and last was 2 div. Because 2 div was you had to travel to 2 div through Indian Airlines or by a service aircraft. Whereas to 21 div and 5 div you could drive. Once the briefing was over, I went to the commander. I said, "This is the dates I have finalized. If they meet your approval, then I can send it to the corps headquarters for approval, because it required clearance of the corps headquarters for the CCRT. Now moving as the rep of the corps commander to visit the divisions." So he nodded. He says, "Yes, you've done a good job." I immediately passed it on to the G1 ops, and within 24 hours, the visit program was finalized. Commander and I, we drove down to Rangia, listened to the briefing of General Khanna, and then on the way back, that is 21 days, then on the way back, we stopped at Hathigarh, where the RT brigade was then located, and we listened to the briefing of Brigadier L.M. Segat, who was the commander. After that, we came back, we jotted down the things, recapped, and caught up with the office work for the next couple of days. And then we decided to drive up to 5 days, Tanga. Now, I think to the best of my recollection, it was 7th or 6th or 7th or maybe 7th or 8th when we reached Tanga, August, that is. When 8th morning, or maybe 7th morning, we were briefed by General J.M. Singh, GOC 5 day. And immediately after that, in the afternoon, we were briefed by Brigadier Nanda, who was the commander of 5 day RT brigade. He briefed us of the RT plan. Now, I could make out that the RT involvement and 5 day involvement was the primary role of 4 Corps, because the famous Tawang monastery was in 5 div sector. Okay. And the major assets of the Corps were so involved, so deployed, that Tawang was a value target for defense. As we came out of the briefing of the Commander 5 RT Brigade, we found a tall gentleman standing there in uniform, and he saluted my commander and said, "Sir, I have got my Pathan's raising day in the evening. I am CO12 Assam. My name is Colonel Jerry Antal.
CO12 Assam.
CO12 Assam. My Pathan is having its raising day today, and we are having the mess function in the evening. Since you are in town, we will be grateful if you and your staff officer could join in and grace the occasion." So the commander and I, we had nothing better to do. So we accepted and we went across to attend the mess function. We were enjoying our chota peg in the evening, and General James Singh was surrounded by his brigade commanders and along with my own commander, Brigadier Jagjeet. I was standing some distance away talking to some known friends and acquaintances, especially the BM-25 Mountain Artillery Brigade, etc. And we were just chit-chatting around. When I found the Colonel GS of 5 days walking very briskly towards the GOC, towards General James Singh. This was on the banks of the Tanga River. In the evening, light music was going on, people were enjoying the evening, and I realized something was amiss. So I slowly, moved towards where my commander was standing. And that is the time the Colonel GS said something to the GOC. And after that, the ADC was sent to fetch CO12 SM, who was the host of the evening. And then I was within earshot by then. And that is when I heard the GOC himself tell Colonel Natal, he said, Jerry, we have now got orders. We have heard that the Chinese have occupied one of our positions at Guangdong. And we have got now orders to move your battalion, to move 2 companies by helicopters tomorrow.
Sir, this was GOC 4 Corps or GOC 5 Div?
This is GOC 5 Div, General James Singh. GOC 4 Corps was in this one. So he says, Jerry, we have got orders to contain the Chinese, to prevent them from moving any further south into our territory. And 2 companies are going to be heli-lifted. Mi-17 helicopters will be coming tomorrow. Since you are from the same regiment, your boys are from this area, I'm going to ask you to be prepared to send 2 companies tomorrow morning. So that was the first time we realized and we heard that something was amiss on our border with China.
Around 7th of August, right? Around 7th of August.
7th August or 8th August. Could be 6th or 7th August or could be 7th or 8th August. But this is the first time I at least got to know of it. Till then, I must admit, I had no inkling about what was in store, what was going to happen, or that the Chinese had come, or there was some place called Guangdong. So the commander looked around for me, and I found me standing just behind him. So he said, "You heard it?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Okay, call your CO and tell him to call the Colonel GS to come back." Colonel GS was already 15 days on leave. He said, "Tell him to catch the first flight." He was in Pune. Tell him to return ASAP and tell him we are coming back tomorrow. We were actually supposed to go ahead to Bombdila, but he says, "Tell him we are going to be there by this thing and we must have a conference tomorrow evening within an hour or 2 of our reaching there." So we came back to our room. I rang up the CO, informed him. I also rang my wife and told her that I may be going out for a couple of days. But she said, "You're already out." I said, "That's okay, but let me get back and then I'll explain to you." So next day we came back. And at this stage I would like to tell you, Sandeep, that we had only been to 21 days and 5 days. And we were to incorporate the assets of 8th Artillery Brigade. So we never got around to visiting 8th Artillery Brigade, but these are the 2 brigades which we had visited. But 8th Artillery Brigade's assets were known to us and we knew where to employ. So we had already worked out a rough plan on how to employ them and where to employ them. One of them was, in light of this new development, one of them was of the employment of a medium regiment to support the battalion which is going to contain the Chinese, in this case 12 SM. Little did I know that at that time, the medium regiment which I had planned to support 12 SM was going to be my own. There was a requirement of a medium regiment because of the range as compared to other guns. So we were to have one regiment which was available to the battalion, to support the battalion which was going to be containing the
So
Chinese.
what guns did you have, sir? 244?
At that time, we were a medium regiment, we were equipped with 105 mm IFG Indian Field Gun with a range of
15 mm.
105 mm IFG with a range of 7.4 kilometers.
7.4 kilometers.
17.
17.4 kilometers.
17.4 kilometers was the range. So that is it was. Over the next 3 days, by then the Colonel GS had come, I briefed them, we drew up the plans, I gave the handed takeover notes to him. And also simultaneously, I also prepared the regiment to the signal. And finally, when the unit moved, I was able to catch up with the rest of the tail of the regiment to go to deploy ourselves along with the Chinese. Now, I must sound you here a little bit about the McMahon line.
So in the meantime, sorry, sir, in the meantime, had 12 Assam, those two companies already moved?
Yeah, 12 Assam had already moved. 12 Assam had already moved on 9th. On 9th of August, 12 Assam with two companies, over the next couple of days, they had already moved and occupied.
Heli lifted.
Heli lifted. They had already occupied what is known as the Kyapo Ridge.
Sorry?
Kyapo Ridge.
Kiapur.
Kyapo. Kypapho. Kyapo Ridge. Okay. Kyapho. Kyapo Ridge. Okay. This has got the famous Lambrula Pass on it. Okay. Now this feature is directly opposite the Changla feature. Changla feature. Changla feature is the one on the home side of which, on our side of which, is this camp of Wangdong, which was belonging to the SSB, which they used to occupy every year.
So it's a Changla feature.
Changla Ridge.
JH.
CHA and GLA.
Changla, is it the other side, north side of Sumdorong-chu or south of Sumdorong-chu?
Yes, it is north of Sumdorong-chu. I'm coming to the geography of it. So, and between the watershed, between the top of the Changla Ridge and the Sumdorong-chu is the Wangdong camp, which was established by the SSB, where they personally used to come in the summer months and to keep a surveillance on the Chinese from the watershed. This time, what happened was when they came in July, the Chinese were already there. So, hence, our defensive position was then taken up along the Kyapo River, which is south of the Sumdorong-chu. And that is how the whole incident got to be known as the Sumdorong-chu affair.
So for our readers, for our viewers, let us just summarize. So 12 Assam was on Kiapur range, which is the Longrola Pass. You were supporting them from an appropriate position. Now, north of them was the Wangdong Ridge on the lower slopes of the Kiapur.
Wangdong camp. Wangdong camp.
I'm sorry, Wangdong camp, Wangdong pastures, actually, in the pastures, which is on the northern slopes.
Yeah, ahead of Kyapo Ridge, where Kyapo Ridge went down into the ravine, was the Sumdorong-chu. And then once you climbed on the other side after crossing the Sumdorong-chu, was the Wangdong camp and the
Wangdong north of Sumdorong-chu.
Yeah, Wangdong camp was north of Sumdorong-chu.
All these years I was an impression to the south of. Okay.
Yeah. Now let me, before I go any further, let me just tell you one thing. That when the McMahon line was demarcated as part of the run-up to the Shimla Agreement 1913-1914, the team which has carried out the survey of the area from the Burma, Tibet, India tri-junction till Changla Ridge. Okay, they had carried the demarcation based on the snow line or the watershed principle, as they said. And the reason was that though there was religious commonality on both north of the watershed and south of it, that is both sides are Buddhist, that was where the similarity ended, and there were the different ethnic groups who were culturally different. They were had different languages, they had different customs, they had different this thing. There was nothing in common.
So the Changla Ridge was the demarcation line between two.
It was the last point on which they had carried out the demarcation. And to the west of the Chagla Ridge was the famous Chagla Ridge of 1962,
Yeah.
the south of which was Namka-chu. Now both Namka-chu, which flows from west to east, and Sumdorong-chu, which flows from east to west, they pour into the Nyamjang-chu, which comes from Tibet and flows down south from Kinzimane down into to Bhutan. So Thagla Ridge was the only one which was left undemarcated. The reason was that Captain Henry Morshett, who was the leader of the expedition, he fell in love with a local Malay and he sent his staff to do the demarcation survey and all. And those guys also didn't go further beyond Lumpu, and they just drew the map, thing on the map as a thick red line. So that thick red line became the area of dispute between China and India when China occupied Tibet.
So this red line, which I believe passes behind Sanghar Ridge, from the Bhutan border, comes down. Sorry?
Actually, this red line should have passed on top of the Thagla Ridge.
Right.
As per the watershed principle.
Yeah.
It had followed up to Chagla Ridge, but it was at the Thagla Ridge because of the thickness of the China craft pencil, red glass marking pencil, it was seen as one along the Namkachu River. Now the Chinese apprehension or objection to the watershed principle on the Thagla Ridge was that from Thagla Ridge you could look down into Lee, their military camp at Lee, and another 10 kilometers up to Lipo. That means about 15-20 kilometers you could look down into the Chinese territory, Tibet territory from top of Thagla Ridge. So they were very allergic to the Indian position on the Thagla Ridge. And that's why they were insisting that no, here the thing is along the Namkachu.